מדברים אמזון, הפודקאסט שמקלף את שכבות העולם הסבוך של אמזון, עם עמית רוזנטל ואלי ונטורה, שני יזמים ותיקים ומנוסים בעולם האי-קומרס. בואו נצא לדרך.
ברוכים הבאים לפרק מספר 45 של הפודקאסט מדברים אמזון. אני אלי ונטורה, איתי שותף יקר עמית רוזנטל, והפודקאסט שלנו בחסות רוזנטל לוגיסטיקה מלווה יזמים ועסקים בכל שלבי שרשרת האספקה, ומציעה פתרונות שילוח מתקדמים בעולם האי-קומרס ואמזון בפרט, ואני מזכיר לכם שאת הפודקאסט שלנו אפשר לשמוע בספוטיפיי, גוגל פודקאסט, אפל פודקאסט, וכמובן בערוץ שלנו ביוטיוב, והיום יש לנו עוד פרק מעבר לים, הפרק יועבר באנגלית, אבל קודם כל נשאל את עמית מה קורה.
וואלה, אלי, ברוך השם, בוקר חצית אצלנו, אצל האורחת שלנו זה כבר אחר הצהריים מאוחרים, ומתקרבים בצעדי ענק למסיבת 50, צריך כבר להתחיל לתכנן מה עושים שם.
זה ממש עוד רגע.
לגמרי. טוב.
Let's switch to English.
Yeah, right. So today we have a valuable friend of us, Fiona Saaoter. She's coming from Australia, another Australian seller that we're having in our podcast. Fiona is a 7-figure seller, started selling on Amazon, I think in 2020 or 2019.
Yeah, 2020.
Fiona will tell her story to us. So Fiona, welcome to our podcast and thank you for your time giving us. Thank you.
Thanks, Amit, and hi guys. Hi, Ellie. Hi, Amit.
Nice to meet you. So, I guess that you didn't hear our podcast, or did you?
I haven't as yet.
Oh, that's good. So, I want to take you on a journey on time. Please tell us what we are doing about 6 months before you getting started on Amazon, and what caused you to start selling on Amazon.
So, I used to be a school teacher, but that was back in 2008. And for about 10 years, I had made the move from teaching to being an entrepreneur and started a small digital marketing consultancy business. Pretty much all self-taught. I just learned through the gurus and attended conferences and trainings whenever I could. But I realized, towards the end of that decade that I really had not developed much of a business because without me, it didn't exist. So I'd created a job. So leading up to Amazon, I was looking for something that I could do where I could take my skills, but create an asset that was saleable. And it needed to be able to work without me. So I was at a conference in Sydney to hear Gary Vee, and that's when I came across a speaker who was promoting Amazon, and it all just clicked in my head. It just seemed like the right thing for me to step into. And I could see that it was a business that would allow me to create an asset and something that I could then sell one day.
Can I ask which grade did you teach?
I was primary school teacher, but I specialized in little ones, so generally kindergarten, the 4 and 5-year-olds.
Nice. So you just go to the lecture and said, "Oh, this might be nice," and you quit your job, the day job immediately.
I still had my consultancy biz at that point, and so over the next 12 months, I started teaching myself the craft of Amazon because I had never produced or manufactured products. I'd never designed products. I'd never sold a product on e-commerce. I knew about the world of digital and in terms of content marketing and social media and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of products, product-based business, I knew nothing. I was all about the service-based business. So it was a steep learning curve for me. And 2019 was the year that I was learning about Amazon. I went to the Canton Fair and walked around like a deer in headlights because there was so many shiny objects and I didn't know where to look at that time. I didn't know what my brand was. So it was really hard and overwhelming, the Canton Fair, because I wasn't clear on what I was going to do and what I was going to sell, or even what the brand would look like or what niche it would be in. I had a bit of an idea, but yeah, that was That was 2019. So by halfway through 2019, I decided on the product, the brand and the niche. And it took me 6 months to work through developing that first product and to have it shipped and launched at the beginning of January 2020.
So I have a remark and a question. First of all, Fiona, you are the first one that say loud and clear that you look to have a business that can be an asset for the future to sell. Like we already did 44 episodes, and no one ever advises that their initial thought was, how can I have an asset, like a business as an asset that I can sell? So it's a nice remark and a nice feature to know. And the second question is that normally, again, from the previous podcast that we had, different sellers had a different point of view on the product itself. Like, do you have any, do you relate to the product itself? How do you find the niche? How did you decide on the specific niche to sell? It's a question that everyone have a different view on that, and it would be nice to know your view on how you pick up the product itself or the niche specific.
Yeah. So in terms of developing an asset, that was really important to me. I'm a single mum with very little. In Australia, we have superannuation, which is money we put aside from our wages, which is supposed to support us in retirement, but it's not enough to live off. I'm turning 50 in a couple of weeks. So 3 years ago, I was starting to look at my future and the amount of years I had left to work and realized that, there's only so many working years I have, and I don't currently have something that's going to support me in my years of retirement. So that's why, for me, the business model that I moved into had to create that asset, something that was worth money. And that's why that was the very big driving decision as to why I could see that Amazon was a really good business model. And of course, the scale at which you can grow really attracted me as well. I don't know of any other business model within digital that would suit my skills that would allow me to grow at the speed that I've grown. I mean, I've only been selling 2 years and it's a multiple 7-figure business. So that's a big thing for me. In terms of product and the way I chose my product, definitely I lent on areas where I understood the avatar. I think that's where I started first. I thought about what type of people do I know really, really well,
right?
Because I've either, been involved with those people in the past, or maybe I'm that type of person, or I know that group really well. Because I think if you can get into the buying psychology of your avatar, right, then it makes things a lot easier. And I do think that's part of the secret sauce, so to speak, with my business, is that I know my avatar. And so therefore I know how to design the products, what the packaging should be like, what my images should look like, how I'm going to speak to that avatar throughout my copywriting. And I'm in a very, very saturated niche. So if I was following the course that I had done in terms of how to pick product, and they said, well, no more than this amount of reviews, and it can't be overly saturated, and it can't be this, and it must be that. If I'd followed those rules, I probably wouldn't have gone into the niche that I went into. But I decided, and I guess that was risky, I did decide to go against that, because when I saw the niche, despite the fact that it was very saturated, had really high review counts, I saw a massive opportunity, because there were a lot of Me Too sellers in the category and a lot of off-the-shelf products. Nobody was doing anything unique. And I also looked at their listings and thought, they don't know their avatar. Mm-hmm. They don't know how to speak to their avatar and how to create products that they really, really want. So that had a lot to do with my decision-making process in those early days, in terms of the first product, but then how I built the brand around that, because it was really important, because my product, the end user, is not the person buying it. It's someone else buying it. So it was really important that I had a brand that would not just appeal to the end user, but also to the person that's buying it.
Did you research your products on Australia or in US?
No, everything was based on US figures and data.
Can you elaborate why?
Because it's the biggest market, I guess. Yeah,
okay.
That's where the volume is. And, I sell now in 4 countries. US, Canada, UK, and Australia. I haven't touched Europe yet, but that's in the plans for the next 12 months. But even within those 4 countries, I would say the US is about 80 to 85% of my turnover.
Oh.
So in Australia, it's still an emerging market. And yes, there's still good, you can still develop a substantial business here. But when I looked at the search volumes, it was like nothing. But the difference in Australia, you've got to have a different mindset, because rather than seeing keywords that have thousands of volumes of search, and there's maybe 20, 30 words in the US that you'd be looking at that might be like that. In Australia, it'd be 100, 150, but there's thousands of words you can target. So all the long tail keywords. So you can go really, really wide in Australia. And it's a lot easier because there's less competition. Whereas in the US, you've got the high competition for those keywords that you look at and you see, 50,000 searches in a month. You're not going to get those search volumes here.
Fiona, you talk a lot about the avatar and your audience, so to speak.
Yeah.
What is the difference between any country? Like, do you look differently when you produce or manufacture or create or design the product itself when you're selling on US or UK or Germany or wherever?
The products that I sell, there isn't a lot of difference between the marketplaces. Right. Potentially, if I went to some of the Asian countries, there would be. But at the moment, the countries that I'm in, it's very similar in terms of the style. Colors, there's a little bit of difference I see with so I've got one product, my first product, there's 2 color variations. Mm-hmm. And in the UK, the product that it doesn't sell very well, or not as well in the other 3 countries, in the UK, it's the most popular color. Mm. So there are differences, but I think my products have appeal across quite a broad section of people and cultures.
Right.
I want to get back to your journey. In what spot do you tell yourself, okay, I made money and I'm making money, so it's time to leave my day job?
So I didn't really follow the process that most people did. The consulting biz, as I mentioned, I didn't mention, I'd lost my passion for it because I realized it wasn't going to give me the outcome that I wanted. So, in 2018, I really had lost the passion. So I thought I'll keep it going whilst I'm getting Amazon up and running. And by the time, 2019, the end of 2019 hit, I thought, if I stop what I'm doing with the consulting work because it's distracting me from Amazon, and I just back myself, and I did have a little bit of money to hold me over for a bit. My goal was to go full-time on Amazon and really hit it hard. And that's what I did. And yes, it was a risk. I did have a bit of savings, but I thought if I back myself, and I know there's no going back, and I even put on my wall, I've made my decision, there's no going back. And that sat in front of my computer as a reminder that this is it. Like, I'm not going to go back to that. I don't want to go back to that. I've just got to make this work no matter what. And I think, when your why is really strong, and I had a few things that were really driving me at the time as to why, making Amazon a success was a non-negotiable. Like I had to make it work. And so I went full-time and just did it.
Wow, it's amazing. And what about the teaching?
Well, that just seems like it's something in the distant past now. I haven't thought since 2008 was my last full-time role. And then I did a bit of casual teaching in 2009 and 10. But yeah, it's a long time behind me now. And I think back to the salary that I was earning back then, which was, teachers in Australia, don't earn the greatest of salaries. I mean, I look at what I'm creating now with Amazon, and you just can't compare it. The thing with what we're doing now is that it's so scalable. You know, you're able to leverage your efforts. You know, in terms of, you think, okay, so let's say that first product that I launched, it took me a lot of time and energy and hours to develop and sample and test and then get it sent across to the US. But once that initial work is done, my time becomes leverage. It's my concept of wash, rinse, repeat. So it was a success in the US. So I thought, right, what other marketplaces can I take this product that I've already done all of that work on and leverage those efforts to get more into the business, to increase my profits? So that's when I decided to go to the UK, and then I decided to go to Australia, and then I decided to go to Canada. So that's leverage you just can't get when you're on an hourly rate in a job. It's just not possible.
You can't do it on the side.
Fiona, I know. Please, Ellie, please.
No, sorry.
So Fiona, I know you use a lot of, let's say, support from Endgame Network, but your journey is quite amazing. So, and you describe yourself as a single mother. So just wondering, like I can say from a business point of view, like entrepreneur and so on. So my business, basically, I have a partner, which is my brother. So it's easy when you have, when you need and when you have a support in any cases, but you like being alone. Can you please give a little bit of insight on what was your supporting, because there is always an issues with any business, and how do you, let's say, bypass those obstacles to generate better and successful business?
Yeah. So you mentioned Endgame before, and you know, one thing I did learn when I left teaching was the power of having mentors. You know, and when I left teaching, I'd never even worked in business before. I'd gone to school, gone to uni, and gone back to school. So I didn't even understand the world of business. So I was lucky in that I did recognize back then that mentors were the way for me to fast track my learning curve and to support me and to reduce the amount of mistakes that I made. So I did invest in mentors back then. And so moving into Amazon, it made sense again for me to find people who have walked in the path that I want to go and have achieved the things that I want to achieve. And so I started with another education group in Amazon to begin with, and then moved to the boys at Endgame and just had an incredible year of mentoring with them. And now, you know, it's interesting just through the relationships that I've developed as a seller and with my data brill, Danny McMillan, who does my PPC, and he's an incredible rock for me in my life in terms of, you know, when things go wrong, and they do, you know, and Danny's seen me through some horrific things I had my account being hacked at Christmas last year around the long weekend, the Black Friday weekend. My account was being hacked several times, and then it kept getting frozen, and then I was being locked out of it. I mean, those kind of things, when you've got stupid amounts of money sitting in your Amazon account, is pretty scary, you know. So I think mentors is a big thing, but then also developing really strong relationships with the people that you're working with. Because I find if you've got their back, they've got your back when you need it. And I think that is something I'm really grateful for, is I have good people around me.
So you mentioned Endgame Network. You mentioned Danny McMillan. So I believe that you believe that you do what you do best and outsource the rest. Of course.
Yes, definitely. Like I like, for example, I am terrible with numbers. Like I have number dyslexia, and I get overwhelmed. Like, don't give me spreadsheets and I just cannot do it. So I invest in an accountant that specializes in Amazon, and I pay a little bit more than what you might pay at a regular accountant, but that is looked after. I knew PPC, being that it was, you know, data driven and, you know, very analytical. That's not my strength. So that was the first thing that I really wanted to outsource as well. So PPC was outsourced. So yeah, I do employ a few different agencies within the business. So even though at the moment it's just me, I do have one admin staff member in the Philippines, and she's an absolute rock star. But other than that, it's me. So I use specific agencies to help me in the different fields. But that works for a while, but you get to the point where I am, where now I'm seeing that I can't keep going where I am because it's getting too big. So I do need to start bringing on either an agency or team members to sort of help with the running of it, because it starts to become too much that you're trying to work out in here.
So what is the next step? Do you think of selling your account?
Yeah. Yeah, look, that's I did look at selling earlier this year, and I had an offer that was on the table. However, the offer wasn't structured in a way that was going to benefit me from a tax perspective. So I decided to hang on to the business for a bit longer. So right now it's about doubling down and building the business to the next level. And that's going to involve some finance. It's going to involve, as I mentioned, bringing on team, because the thing about Amazon, of course, as anyone who's selling on it will know, is it's a very money hungry business. There's a lot of money churning through my business, but a lot of it is tied up and not making money, because it's either, money that's poured into stock that's then sitting in ships, and there's a long wait time, in between that your money's tied up. So part of what I need to do at the moment is look at how I free that up a little bit. And I've got a few things that I'm looking into at the moment to free up that cash flow, because money's a huge suck on this business model.
Let's talk about let's discuss about the point and timing of selling any business. Doesn't matter now if it's a specific Amazon or whatever. Like, Fiona, when do you believe it's the right time to sell? Because normally the best revenue will have when the business on scale up. But no one can really predict if you are now on the highest point or you're gonna downgrade a little bit. So can you please share with us and our audience about when do you believe is the right timing to sell any business, and specific Amazon business?
I think there's two prongs to that answer. And I think the first prong is the personal side of it. So everybody's personal situation will be different.
Right.
Selling at a certain point because you're going to get a certain amount of money, like whatever that threshold is for people. Like for me, the offer wasn't meeting the threshold that I was wanting to get out of this.
Right.
So knowing what your threshold is, what is it that if you could sell this business and get whatever that money is, that's going to make the difference in your life that you're wanting. I think it's important to know that for a start.
Right.
But also, knowing from a personal perspective, where you're at in terms of coping with running that business. So for me, one of the reasons why, apart from cash flow, that I was looking to sell was because the business was getting too big for me to do on my own. And I was thinking, right, okay, I'm already so saturated with everything I'm trying to do. So now it's time to pass it on to someone else. So I think there's that personal thing that you've got to look at, and, how much of your time are you willing to give, or you're able to give to this business? And then what threshold is going to make the difference for you? If exiting is your part of your strategy, of course, because some people aren't building to sell, but for me, it is that the case. Yeah. In terms of the business side of things, in terms of when to sell, I totally agree with you. Like you obviously want to be selling when you're on the up. And my business is still on the up, but the reason why, and obviously, like you say, you don't know when it's going to do this, and that's not when you want to sell. But when I was preparing all the documents to potential buyers about what opportunities there are for growth, and I wrote them down, I realized that
it's amazing.
I could actually quadruple this business in 2 years if I did those things. And that's without even any new products. There's just some steps that I could take in terms of expansion and growth and optimizing. And I was like, wow. So if someone bought this now, they're getting it at a really good price because, you know, this business I could just double, quadruple in the next couple of years. Right. So I think, you know, to know whether there's opportunity still available for the business. Mm-hmm. So let's say you had 10 SKUs and you're still going up, but you don't know when you're going to reach that threshold. But if you know that there's other avenues that you still haven't even touched, like, for example, I've done nothing to drive business to my e-commerce store. I've done nothing. I've got a few social posts up, but I've done nothing to optimize any social advertising. I've done none of that. And there's some very obvious marketplaces for Amazon that I've not even touched yet. So there's a lot of opportunities. So I think if you look at that and you can say, okay, so there's a lot of untapped opportunity here. And if you're willing to be the person to do that, at first I thought I'll let someone else do that. I won't touch that. I'll sell it and they can be the ones to take it to that next level. But I guess for me, I've decided that I'll be the one.
Oh, sounds good. We have a repeat question that we ask all our sellers because we're approaching to the end of the session. And it really interests me what will you answer. So if you will won tomorrow in $10 million US dollars, not Australian, US dollar, net after taxes, what will you do with them?
Oh, wow. Well, my ultimate goal, apart from having a Sydney base, and I don't need something big, but just something by the beach, is to be able to travel the world 3 to 6 months a year. But I also have some philanthropic desires as well. I am already on the road and on the path with that, with my brand. So my brand has charities that it supports.
Nice.
It's the whole idea of whenever you buy my product, I give to these charities. So for me, like I would love to be able to give back in time and money to some of these causes because they're things that are really important to me. And I believe that it's important to, as a human, to be giving to those who are less advantaged, because I feel incredibly advantaged and very privileged. And I think it's important, no matter what your status is in life, you know, anybody who lives in Australia, for example, we're privileged. You know, we live in a beautiful country with amazing weather and it's safe here. And, you know, even if you can't work, the government gives you money. Like, it's incredible, free healthcare. There's so much to be grateful for here in Australia. And yet there's people in the world that have none of that, you know, and their safety is threatened every single day. So I think as humans, if we can give back, then I think that's important. So that would be something for me as well, as apart from living out my life in terms of adventure and good times with good friends, then it would be giving back.
You leave me speechless. I wanted to ask how much money will you invest in your Amazon store, but I don't think it's relevant anymore.
Look, I do have another brand that I'm working on. Yeah, look, I think if I do another brand, it'll be something because I just want to, not because I need to anymore.
Yeah.
So I am looking for that big exit. I'm looking for that life-changing exit, and I'm determined to make it.
For our Israeli living audience, can you tell us how will cost us to buy a beach house in Sydney or in Melbourne?
It is so
you have to compare it. Eddie, you have to compare it to 3-bedroom in wherever in Bnei Brak or something.
I will.
So I live at the beach, and I don't know if you can see the beach behind me.
Oh my
here.
God!
Oh my God!
So next to me there's a fish and chip shop, and above that is a 1-bedroom apartment, and it's tiny, like really tiny, and it has no parking. And they're wanting to sell it for 1.5 million Australian dollars.
1.5. How many US dollars is?
Plus probably 1.1, 1.2. What is it, 70 to 30 at the moment? Yeah.
Wow.
It's over $1 million.
Even more expensive than in Israel. I believe it's even more expensive than Israel. And the real estate in Israel
Sydney's one of the most expensive cities in the world. It is stupid.
Right. We have the same problem, so to speak, here in Israel. The real estate in Israel is increasing like on a yearly basis about 10%.
10-15%.
So it's getting crazy as well here. Fiona, it was great. It was pleasure. It's always great to hear a different perspective from a different point of view of life. And personally, I can only wish you great success. I think you are super, super talented, aiming towards your goal, and surely you will reach it eventually.
Thank you, guys. I really
appreciate find the right time to do so. Yeah,
it's been a good chat. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very, very much for your time. I was very impressed in your journey, and I believe you can do even better, and you will get to your goals sooner.
Let's have a chat when that happens, hey?
Yeah.
We'll be toasting the champagne.
Right.
Fiona, thank you very much, and have a nice day, evening, afternoon. We will have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank
Same
you,
to you
Fiona.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.